In this video, let's take a look at how we can create our own custom brushes and save them inside of ZBrush. So right off the bat, I'm going to go to Document, and I'm going to turn off Proportion right here, and I'm going to make this a 1024 by 1024. And go ahead and hit Enter and say Resize. It's going to ask me if I want to resize my document, and I do. This size doesn't really matter that much, but I'm just going to keep it in a square format just to make things a little bit easier. So I'm going to make sure I go to my Tools section here, and I'll go ahead and click on the Polysphere 3D, if I can find that. Let's just go to Sphere 3D. Click that, and I can click and draw that out. This is a primitive that's inside of ZBrush. I'm going to hit T to go into edit mode here. But I'm going to make this into Polymesh 3D so I can actually sculpt on it. And I accidentally hit that twice, but so it made two versions for me. So I can go ahead and click on either one of the ones that it created here. It'll say PM3D underscore Sphere 3D 1. And at that point, I should be able to sculpt on this brush. Now I'm going to turn this into a Dynamesh real quick, just so I get a nice kind of more even sphere and I don't have geometry that kind of comes to a point here. So I can take the resolution and maybe put that up to 512 for the Dynamesh, and click Dynamesh here, and let's take a look at the polyframe, and it has made this into a Dynamesh object for me. So now I can just smooth some of this out to get rid of the faceting, and I don't have to work around the entire model. I just want a section that I can kind of see and work with. So I've got it on the standard brush. I'm going to go to the brush palette, and I'm going to dock it by clicking this little icon over here. And I want to clone the brush. I don't want to save over the standard brush that comes with the program. So I'm going to hit clone, and it's going to make a new version of standard underscore 1 somewhere in your palette here. It should be at the bottom. So I'm actually selected on that brush. I'm going to change the stroke type from dots, which would just allow you to draw like this, to a drag rectangle, and you can see it's going to drag out a piece, and it just looks like kind of this little blob that comes out. What I want us to take a look at is if we add an alpha to this, what happens at that point. So if I click and drag out with this shape here, you can see what it's going to do, and if I drag with some different ones, you can see the kind of texture that it's going to drag out for me. Let's put it on the star. This will be pretty obvious. So if I click and drag out, I can control the scale, and if I rotate this around, I can actually rotate the stroke around. And when I let go, then it's set in the model. I'm going to go ahead and put it on this alpha 23, and you can see the stroke that it's going to drag out here. It's going to have this really kind of cool bumpy detail. So I'm going to click and drag another copy out. And what if I want to save this as a brush that can load with ZBrush? So I can go ahead and save this out. I'm going to tap F to frame it within here. I can save this, but before I do, I want to make my own custom icon for the brush here. So let's go ahead and click here and put it on Toy Plastic. If we can find that shader, it's right down here. This is the actual shader that it uses to generate a lot of these different icons. So once I have that loaded on here, I can hold down Alt and click on this select icon in the brush palette. And when I do that, you can see it's going to build a custom icon for me. Now it's time for us to go ahead and save the brush. So we can go Save As, and you're going to navigate to a location that you can save your brush, wherever you want to put it. So I've got a location where I'm going to save. I'm just going to save over the top of a brush that I've already made. But what if you want this brush to load with the program every time ZBrush starts? So you're going to have to navigate to your Pixelogic folder, wherever that sits, probably on System C, Program Files, and then Pixelogic, and find the version of ZBrush that you're actually working with. Go into that folder for it, and there should be a folder called Z Startup. If you double click on that and go in, you can see that there is a folder called Brush Presets. So if we go within here and save, the next time that we load up ZBrush, that brush should load up for us. So I've just reloaded ZBrush, and I actually went to Preferences, Initialize ZBrush to just make ZBrush start all over for me, just like this. And if I go ahead and click on Sphere 3D, draw that out, hit T to go into edit mode, then make Polymesh 3D so I can sculpt. Now I'm ready to take a look at the brushes that we've got inside of here, and you can see it's got this NICZ custom brush 1 here, and it's actually within the palette that we have here. So I can click that, and there's not much resolution to this model right now, so that's why it kind of looked like that when I drew that out. But you can see now that we've got this brush that we can use and paint all over the model. So you're going to be able to make your own kind of customization for brushes and save those out and build up your own library of different brushes that you really like, and you can change the stroke types on it and get different behavior. Let me go ahead and take the placement of this. This is just spray, so it's kind of like an airbrush where it just shoots out these different patterns. And this is why I like to avoid using the Sphere 3D, the primitive, right off the bat, the way that the geometry is laid out, because of this pinching in this pull area. So that's why I like to use the new Dynamesh and just go ahead and let's go say no for freezing subdivision levels. That's why I like to use this new Dynamesh to create with. Then that way I don't have to worry about any kind of pinching or anything like that. So you can get some really interesting results by just changing different parameters in the brush, and then you can go ahead and create your own icon and build up your own library of your own favorite brushes.